we cannot entirely claim there's an importance of this election because, as you have just mentioned, Eswatini is ruled by an absolute monarch. Political parties are banned from participating in elections, and all executive, judicial, and legislative powers are vested upon the king. And it's true, this coming Friday, Eswatini will be heading for elections. But of course, this election has been condemned by various international bodies that include the Southern Mission. The Commonwealth Observer Mission is also in Eswatini, but in their previous reports, they stated clearly or categorically that political parties must be allowed to participate so that the elections can be in line with democratic principles. And one of the things that was cited in the previous reports with regards to these elections was that all those who participate must be allowed to have free access in the media to express themselves and articulate what they will seek to do once they're in power. But that is not happening in Eswatini. You will be surprised that even members of parliament, elected members of parliament, are not allowed to express themselves in the state-owned media that include the national radio and television. So we can just say these elections are not democratic in any way.
And you were also yesterday trying to explain to us the system, the Tingunda system. Tell us about that and how it works.
Tingunda system was established in 1978. What really happened in 1968, Eswatini gained independence from the British rule, and there were democratic elections from 1968 that lasted for, and the government that was elected thereafter ruled Eswatini for 5 years until 1973. But what happened thereafter, there was an opposition from the Ngwane National Liberatory Congress because King Sopoza's political party known as Imbogo for National Movement won almost all the seats in 1968. So there was democracy in Eswatini from 1968 to 1973. But in 1973, there was an opposition party known as the Ngwane National Liberatory Congress won 3 seats. And of course, there was an opposition, a little bit of opposition. And then Sopoza decided to ban political parties and assume all executive powers, including judicial and legislative powers. But from 1973 to 1978, there were no elections in Eswatini. The king was ruling the country single-handedly. All the powers were upon him. So Tingunda was then established in 1978 after the international community condemned the royal family that you can't rule a country without elections. So the king then established Tingunda to try and cover up as if Eswatini is a democracy. But of course, even the Tingunda system, those who are elected are then expected to be loyal to the king. This is not a secret. Even during what is known as Sibaya National Gathering, even King Mswati normally state that those who must be elected must be loyal to their majesties. They must submit themselves to the authority of the king. That's the situation in Eswatini.
So, I mean, what I'm trying to get there is that, so once the elections are done, those who, in brackets, win, what positions or what powers do they have, as it were, if the king at the end of the day has autonomy?
Under normal circumstances, elected members of parliament are expected to form a government, but that is not the case in Eswatini. Even though what we can say it looks like a government, because some of them constitutionally are then expected or are then appointed to be in cabinet. But the issue that has been causing international, local and international condemnation is the fact that all the powers are vested upon the king. The king is the only decision maker, even though sometimes the regime will claim that they acts on recommendations from various governing bodies, which in Siswati are referred to as Emabandla. But we know that even the prime minister is appointed by the king from the ruling Dlamini clan, and most of those who hold various political positions are relatives of the royal family. And this then creates a situation whereby the entire country is ruled by royal supremacy as opposed to a constitutional order in line with democratic principles. So the whole system in its entire form, it might look like holding elections is a level of democracy, but at the end of the day, all the powers are vested upon the king, and even appoints the judges, ministers, and some of the MPs and senators are appointed by the king. So the whole parliament, the king enjoys the majority because the upper house, that is known as the Senate, has a majority of those who are senators appointed by the king. The king appoints 20 senators, and the remaining 10 senators are then elected by members of the parliament. But the most interesting part that you need to understand that the Tinkundla system, even if the entire parliament can vote or pass a law, if the king is not happy with that piece of legislation, he can refer that law back to parliament until it aligns to his interest.
Right. So I think we're going to have to leave it there. We are out of time, but thank you as always for making time to speak to us. Dlamini, talking to us about